Right, here we go. So, I am definitely disappointed that we don't have MK11 at Evo this year. I figured as last year we had, I mean, what was it? Was it 1,500? It was like rounded up to like 1,500 people in the end. We had like a 1,500 man tournament. It was the biggest Mortal Kombat tournament of all time, like by a mile. If you look at how much entrance we've got at Evo across the games through the years, MK11 blows every other NetherRealm game completely out of the water. MK9's biggest Evo had roughly about 320 people in it. That was MK9's biggest Evo, which was seen to be like MK9's biggest tournament overall, right? It was Evo 2012. And that was considered a big deal to the community. I believe, actually no, that may not be right. I believe year one for Evo did get more because it's year one of a new game at Evo, right? That's always the case. The only game to ever go up in entrance has been Tekken 7. No other game has gone up. However, the community considered MK9 Year 2 at Evo to be a big deal, right? This is a heavy tournament. 300 people? Damn, because especially for 2012, with the size of the NetherRealm community it was back then, of course, you know, that absolutely was. How's it going, Monty? Injustice numbers never really reached the same as MK9 managed to get. But then here comes MKX that had, what was it, 11... I think it was like 11,500 people. No, 11,500. It was 1,150, I think, roughly. I think, counting last-minute signups, you could round it up to 1,200. I think. I'm not sure. But that was MKX's first year, and it's always Evo. It's always the Evo that has the bigger. It's always the Evo that has the biggest number of that game for the most part. And, you know, and with the exception of specific events for specific games, maybe. MK11, year 1 Evo, 1,500 people. So, absolutely, the biggest event. And it keeps getting bigger. Every Mortal Kombat from NetherRealm just gets bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of community size, in terms of how dedicated the players are, and what our biggest events were, right? Remember, we had Combo Breaker this year, had 800 entrants in it. Combo Breaker had 800. So, this is why the community is disappointed, because we went from MK11 launching, it's the best-selling Mortal Kombat, it's the best-selling fighting game of the year, it's the best-selling DLC, you know, like, it is doing well. Combo Breaker has absurd numbers, like, versus fighting in the UK. For the UK, like, local communities around the world are getting crazy numbers. Versus fighting was mad. Evo, biggest Mortal Kombat tournament of all time, right? Final Combat coming up. LCQ coming up. Combat Cup Online has near enough 300 entrants in it, right? I know there is this air of Twitter negativity that just talks about how the game's fucked. The game's on a decline already. But you look at the numbers, don't lie. You know what I mean? Like, you look at the continued support of DLC, support through patches, registration in events around are still doing absolutely fine. Viewership is still doing absolutely fine. So the game had this big spike, and, you know, it's kind of coasting along. Yeah, you know, it's not bad. We are in a bit of a quiet period in between, you know, the end of the leaderboards being decided for the points and Final Combat. There is that kind of, you know, 2.5-3 month gap that we've had. But that gap is almost over, as Final Combat is pretty much a month away at this point. And we already know there's going to be, you know, Spawn trailer, you know, guests for the community and stuff like that, and obviously the World fucking Finals. The community is holding out for a Season 2 of Pro Competition news, and in my opinion, I want to see a tease for, like, year 2 of characters, right? I want it to be like, yeah, here's the Spawn trailer, but don't worry, there's a year of stuff coming up. That's what I want to see. I hope we see that. But to have that, and also, NetherRealm hasn't not hasn't missed an Evo since 2012 at the absolute earliest. It's always been there. So we had this huge year, this amazing year, right? Everything's true besides viewership. How is that not true? How is that not true? You look at the viewer numbers on Evo Finals Day for Saturday, and MK was the second highest watched game next to Dragon Ball FighterZ. And that's Dragon Ball. But MK was the second highest game. Like, solidly, right? So we had this great year, and continue to have this great year, into just, yeah, you're not there. Game's not in the lineup. And then, obviously, they're not going to mention games by name that aren't there. But then it's like, hey, man, if your game's not here, bring your consoles, do a community tournament. It's like, that's all well and good, but it's not like there's a huge amount of crossover, right? It's really rough. Like, I can absolutely see why the community is disappointed. However, one thing that I absolutely, like, passionately disagree with is the amount of people that I see saying, and I've even seen it countless times in chat today, and it pisses me off, is when people say, we're not there? Fuck. Why are we not there and this game is? Why is this game in the lineup? We're not. That game is. I fucking hate that mindset, because it's so stupid. Because we've been on the receiving end of that. How many years like I said, right? NetherRealm has been in the Evo lineup from 2012 to now. Every single year, we have had the lineup happen, the lineup reveal happen, the stream happen, we're in it, and then I see people from other games that aren't, or games that missed out, and it's fucking, why is Mortal Kombat there? Why isn't Injustice there? When Injustice made it back for year 2, it's like, what the fuck? Why isn't Injustice there? You know what I mean? Like, it's something that happens every year, and it's so ugly, because it just makes people look like brats, you know what I mean? It just reminds me of a bunch of kids standing around, and a kid wants to buy an ice cream, and he's like, why can't I get an ice cream? He's got an ice cream, you know what I mean? It just comes across as this really spoiled, bratty man, and I don't like it at all. I do not like it at all. And any game that does that, I look at that, and I just, ugh, it just makes me cringe, dude. But I do understand why people are disappointed. I feel like, and as an absolute disclaimer, God, I'm seeing so many comments in chat that I furiously disagree with. That I'm going to lose my train of thought if I deal with all of them. So as an absolute disclaimer, I know nothing about the behind-the-scenes happenings at EVO. I don't know how you get a game at EVO. I don't know how much it costs to get a game at EVO. I don't know whether it changes. Like, I have heard rumors from other players across other scenes over the many years. I don't know how true things are, so I'm not gonna spout anything that I don't think, you know, has a layer of truth to it, because I don't want to be that guy that spreads gossip and bullshit. But I look at how much momentum the game has had. And how last year was the biggest year of Mortal Kombat. 2019 was the biggest Mortal Kombat year ever, by far. And for the game to not be back in the lineup. And again, I know that some games, they just don't make it. Some games just can't make the lineup. They only have a certain amount of games, I get that. But NetherRealm is a mainstay of mainstream fighting game community. It is. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. It absolutely is. It has earned its place as that. Does that mean it should automatically be in every year? DMob13, thank you so much for the resub, bro. I appreciate it. You heard that Evo didn't pick it due to violence as it puts of advertisers. That's a really dumb reason. That's a really dumb reason.
All we can say is, if you don't play this game,
they've got Samurai Showdown. Like, Samurai Showdown's in the lineup. where every match you win, you see a Quentin Tarantino fucking fountain appear. You know what I mean? Like, it is not the only game that has violence. Like, that is absolutely not. If that was a problem, it would never have been in. If violence was an issue, it would never have been in. It would never have been in at all. Even last year. Last year, the MK stream... The MK stream for last year had its own advertisements. The only advertisements it had were like the Evo mandatory ones. It had its own advertisements, the Roadrunner partnership and the stuff like that. Right? Anyway, like I was saying, I'm gonna get sidetracked. I understand that games don't make the cut, and I'm not saying that MK or NetherRealm games automatically deserve a slot every year. However, for this to be the year that it doesn't make it is the biggest surprise. Because of the size of last year. Because of the momentum from last year. You know what I mean? Like, we literally went from biggest Mortal Kombat tournament of all time to not there. Straight away. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so surprised.
All we can say is,
I don't
game,
believe that it has to be there every year. And again, to repeat myself, because I want to make sure you guys are clear on my standing point on this.
All we can say is, if you don't play
this game, I don't think the game needs to be there every year. But for this to be the year it isn't, is the biggest surprise. Because of how big MK was at EVO last year. You know? What are the politics? What do you suspect is the real reason? I honestly don't know. Like, I have hunches, but I don't want to be that guy that spouts my opinion or my hunches and have people go and take it as fact, and then everywhere you see, Mustard said the reason the game's not here is because XYZ, because you know how the internet works. You know that's going to happen. And I do not want to be at the center of that bullshit, because you guys know what it's like. Do a disclaimer. You know that doesn't work. You know that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I definitely don't think it's the violence, though. Not at all. Not at all is that the reason. Because MK has been there for years. Could you turn off the alerts? No. If NOS keeps supporting the game, you can see it back next year unless they announce Injustice 3. I don't think we'll get Injustice 3. I can turn the alerts down. But I'm not turning them off.
All we can say is, if you don't play,
you should bring your own consoles and do the BO. Now, okay, so this is the point, right? Because I've seen a lot of people say this. Evo's side tournaments, right? The side stage is a really good thing. I respect Evo a lot for doing it, for putting it on, for giving a stage section. So even if a game isn't in the main lineup, they will designate one of the Evo streams, even if it's like Evo 6 or Evo 7, whatever. They will still have the opportunity to have some designated stream time on the side stage. So a community can turn up, run their tournaments on their consoles, and then they have their finals on the side tournament stage, right? So I like that. That will not happen for MK11. Like, I'm sure someone will run an MK11 tournament there, but it is not going to be the same by a country mile, because people are not going to travel to it. Getting to... And this is a thing, right? EVO is a spectacle, and it's something that people spend all year planning. The reason they're revealing the roster now, in fucking early February, even though the tournament's not for another 6 months, is because that's how long people need to save. That is how long people need to save to go to that tournament. EVO is not cheap. EVO is by far, I would say, the most expensive grassroots tournament of the year, by far, because of multiple factors. Entry fee is much higher. It's EVO, right? EVO's costs overall are higher than everywhere else because, again, it's location, but it is EVO, right? It's the whole kind of festival, right? You'll get a download and they'll charge you £7, £8 for just a burger, which is just a hamburger and a bun, and it's like £8. They do it because they'll make it, right? Like, it's download. Like, they can charge what they want because it's not like you've got anything else, right? Food at EVO is expensive. Drinks at EVO are expensive. Signing up to the tournament, each tournament you sign up to is expensive. Registering for the event is expensive. But it's EVO, it's the spectacle, it's the world finals for grassroots fighting games. I get it, I understand. The big problem is the time of year is peak holiday season. So flights are always as expensive as they're ever going to be for the year. Hotels are always going to be expensive. It is absolute peak holiday maker time. So flying there, and I say this as someone from international, right? So I am fortunate in the sense that I have only ever paid for myself to go to Evo once, and it was twice. Once was because ESL made it possible. So it was year one. It was 2015. It was year one of Pro League. It was year one of Pro League, and the Pro League finals for MK were a week before Evo. So ESL said to everyone that made the finals, commentators, players, like everyone involved, they were like, look, we know Evo's coming up. If you want to go to Evo, we will book your flights home a week after. Because remember, Los Angeles and Las Vegas are like a 30 to 45 minute flight away from each other, right? So if you're in international, like if you're one of the Russians that were in the finals, the Europeans that made the finals, the Americans that are on like the East Coast or somewhere far away, they're like, look, if you want to go to Evo this year, we will book your flights back. Because ESL, obviously, they booked your flights to and from Los Angeles and got your hotel in Los Angeles, right? They were like, if you want to go to Evo, we'll get your flight back home from LA a week later than usual. So if you want to go to Evo, you can, all you got to do is source your own travel from LA to Vegas and sort your own hotel while you're there. So a trip that usually ends up being about £1,500 to £2,000 in total for a European ends up being like £600 because you get a flight from LA to Las Vegas, which is like 150
This
bucks.
is the video where he says it is advertisers why MK11 isn't at Evo. At like 5 minutes in, not sure how credible Rooflemonger is though. Bit gutted won't be watching Evo now in spite lol.
So we don't allow links in chat, so it didn't post, but I can promise you it's not. It is not because of the violence. That is just straight up not the case. Violence does make it harder to advertise, but not on Twitch. TV is the problem. If it's being televised, that's where it's an issue. But if it's on Twitch, it's not a problem at all. Especially when the game has its own sponsors. Like, that just ain't a thing. Not for Twitch. Anyway, like I was saying. So you have so a £2,000 trip becomes like 600 because you get a flight from LA to Vegas, and then you share a hotel for a week with a bunch of people, and it ends up being quite cheap in overall. But it's a lot more affordable in that way. So for all the Europeans, the Russians, the UK boys, that was how we did it. And then again, I sent myself, Ryan and I sent ourselves in 2016. It was year 2 for MK. Because back then Evo, they accepted us for commentary, but they didn't pay for flights or hotels or anything, so we had to pay for all of our own. That was a problem. That was the kind of event that you'll go to work to commentate, but you'll end up like losing money on it by a considerable amount. But you know, that was a problem of a number of years ago. Ever since then, we haven't had to do it. Evo has started like, you know, covering stuff like that, which is good. But this is it, right? Like, it's expensive. They're the only 2 times I've ever paid to send myself to Evo. Every other time I've been to Evo. In 2012, it was a prize. Ketchup won a trip to Evo for him and a friend, and he brought me. Because he won this like big promotional tour event in MK9 back in the day. And that was the prize. No one cares about MVC2. But you see, this is the kind of thing that I don't understand. How have we got waves of people saying no one gives a fuck about Marvel 2 when Battle of the Strongest, which was an exhibition held in someone's fucking house or basement, pulled like 30k stream viewers, raised fuck knows how much with crowdfunding on like a 1-day event. And Marvel has a legacy at Evo. It has been weird how there's no Marvel 3 or Marvel 2 or anything at EVO for years. I don't understand how this is the go-to thing for so many people. I understand the point of Marvel taking up a slot, right? If they have a 9-game lineup, I understand how it's seen that Marvel has a slot, right? It has a slot on the lineup. And there are other games that are more modern that arguably should get that slot instead of a experimental exhibition. I do understand that point, and if I'm being honest, I do agree with it. I am okay to see Marvel at EVO, Marvel 2 at EVO. I'm sure it'll be fun. But if it's going to a game that has an active, current, huge community, it's EVO. In my opinion, the right thing is for it to go to one of those games that have those current communities. But I don't agree with this point of no, because I've seen that so many times across yesterday and today. No one cares about Marvel. Marvel's trash. Marvel's a waste. Like, I don't agree with that point of it. That I couldn't disagree more with it, because people evidently care about Marvel. The question is, should it be there instead of a game that has and again, that's not just for MK, but active communities that travel and play. I'm actually not sure what you're talking about, Sketchy. I'm Mustard. This is new to me. But lots of people care about Marvel. Yeah, having what seems to be quite an experimental invitational instead of a game that has an active current traveling community is confusing to me, because there's no BB Tag, there's no Guilty Gear, there's no Melee, obviously. Try to think of what else is missing from it this year. No Marvel, obviously, again. No Marvel Infinite, no Marvel 3. I can guarantee you the Marvel 3 community would much rather have had Marvel 3 there instead of Marvel 2. I would argue it would go better. But it's a weird one, isn't it? I can only assume that there is some kind of behind the scenes stuff going on. Recently bought MK11 to play the tutorial. How do you get good at this game from now on? We have a tutorial series on our YouTube called From Casual to Competitive that covers all of the kind of need to know mechanics. I tell you what, if you go here, Power Rangers, yeah, Power Rangers isn't there, but Power Rangers isn't one of the bigger games though, is it? But it still counts. No, of course, no KI either. Like there are active communities that didn't get to EVO again. We were absolutely the biggest community that didn't though, which is why I think it's such a shock. Because I've seen hella people from other games be. I am. It's hard. Like, I don't think that any game doesn't deserve to be on the lineup. However. I don't know. For me, like, the biggest question mark is Samurai Showdown, and I say this as someone that loves that game. I think that game is really cool. I really find it. I don't find it too surprising. But I definitely didn't have it as a lock. Like, if you look at the general numbers for Samurai Showdown, it has definitely gone down across the board. I think when it came out, like, shortly before EVO, it definitely had this kind of real big buzz around it, like the big return of this ancient franchise, and it was very easy to play as a side game, right? Like, Sam Show is very easy to just pick up and play. Like, yes, at the high level, it's difficult, and there's all these sort of reads and knowledge required, but to just pick up and play as a fan of fighting games, it doesn't take you very long to get to grips with it, right? It's quite accessible. It's quite minimalistic. Which made it a great side game. Like, remember, Sam Show had, like, 1,800 entrants last year, right? But it also had, like, what was the number? Like, I think it was, like, 70% of the entrants entered something else. And the other game was the game they were mainly there for, you know what I mean? I don't know if that is gonna continue a momentum for a whole year. I hope that Sam Show's numbers are still good for Evo next year, but given what we've already seen of the decline through the year, I don't know how much I believe that will happen. I hope it happens, but I don't know how much I believe it will. I hope it does, though. Now, I hope... What do you think about the argument of MK is boring to watch? Enjoyment is subjective. It is not...
All we can say is, if you don't play this
It is
game,
not something
you're
that can
not a
be
true gamer.
right or wrong. You know what I mean? Like, what you like watching is subjective.
All we can say is,
there are
if
people
you
that
don't
don't
play
enjoy
this
watching
game,
MK11
you're not a
compared
true
to
gamer.
X. But then there are people that hated X and wanted to watch MK9 again. You know what I mean? Like, what you like in games, and again, NetherRealm games are always different. They are always different to each other. Like, no MK is like the last one, unless you're talking about, like, the 3D games, which were, like, quite legacy. But even then, they changed a load of stuff around every time. So, they're never going to play the same. You know, if you preferred MKX is fast, explosive, bullshit all around, but fun, right? It is very fun. MK11, I still find really fun. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more calculated. It is a lot more balanced. And I still see people just be like, this game isn't balanced. And you're like, why? And they're like, because down ones are too good. It's like, that's not balance, is it? Like, oh. People just don't people just don't explain themselves. Like, it's the most frustrating thing. It is the most frustrating thing. When people just can't explain their points at the game. They just can't. Let the hate flow through you. I will. After I've mashed down one 100 times today. I've never seen someone redeem some channel points for Jarek faces. To that, I will respond with my own. So, a lot of people are asking, so where does this leave us? Hey guys, why not? So, it absolutely is unfortunate that we aren't at EVO this year. But, EVO is not required to have a successful year. We have Final Combat, which is the World Finals for MK11 in a month's time. We have Combo Breaker, confirmed to have it. Versus Fighting, confirmed to have it if you're European. Biennality, of course, confirmed to have it. It is probably the only tournament that had MK last year that won't have it this time. I absolutely... CEO, I definitely expect CEO to have it. Evo, and this is the thing. There is a lot of kind of like knee-jerk reactions to, oh, well, I guess the game's dead. I guess the game's done. Let's all go play other games. When it's like, Evo is probably the only game, the only tournament this year that had MK last year that won't have it again this year. The year is going to be exactly the same from a competitive standpoint. I hope to see Year 2 of competitive announced. I hope to see Pro Competition Year 2. I hope to see a tease for Combat Pack 2 of more characters.
All we can say is, if you don't play this game,
I hope
you're
we
not
see
a
all of
true
that.
gamer.
I hope we see all of that. And what I would love to see is Warner Brothers or NetherRealm to come out and be like, don't worry guys, you know, just you wait. We're not at EVO, but we do have whatever. Like a point I've been thinking of in my head is like, because again, we all know it's not cheap to get a game at EVO, you know? Like, games don't just appear on the lineup, you know? Like, you absolutely must have to pay for a spot on the lineup, right? Like, that seems like common sense. Like, that has to be a thing. There's no way they let games in for free at an event that size. I would love to see the money that would have been spent on getting the game at EVO funneled into Year 2 of Pro Competition. That's what I'd like to see. If that is something that happens, right? And again, I don't know the behind the scenes. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to get a game at EVO. But if it does cost money and it is expensive, And because I'm seeing people on Twitter say maybe Warner didn't want to pay for it, maybe NetherRealm didn't want to pay for it or something like that. You know, I don't know how much it costs. I don't know if it even costs. I don't know the factors. But let's say that that is the case. I would like them to take the money it would have cost them to get to EVO and funnel it into the year's worth of Pro Competition Season 2. That's what I want to see. I think that would be a great way of kind of like really uplifting the community, because the community is very deflated by this news, right? There's no two ways about it. The community is very defeated by this. And I would love Warner Brothers or NetherRealm, preferably both, to come out and be like, don't worry guys, we're not at EVO, but we've got all this other cool shit for you guys to look forward to, you know? I would love that. Yeah, Combat Cup got like, what, 300 entrants online, near enough? Like 270, 280? What's tonight? Have I got Destroyer in the chat? I keep seeing Destroyer tagged. I'm not seeing him comment. Am I just blind? I think I am. Oh, Combat Cup top 8 today. Top 8 is today. I get you. I mean, I like, the reason I'm convinced that it costs money to get to EVO is like, I mean, Grand Blue is there. That game's not even out. You know what I mean? That game's not even out, and it's there. So surely they had to pay for it, because that's happened to loads of other games over the years. Like, surely you have to pay for it. You down for PC set? Sure, bro. Yeah, BB Tag had EVO on its box art, dude. You're not telling me these are like free exchanges. So Shu BC, I took that as a general comment of while people are deciding, because again, people are talking about how the game not being at EVO is like means the end for the game, right? Whereas Combo Breaker, which has for years been oh, so Brady and Ryan are asking to come in. So, right, okay. So, I am going to get both of you guys in. However, I'm gonna say right off the bat, I'm doing this as a we've all been to EVO for years. You know, all three of us together have been to EVO for many years. No, but this is exactly it, guys. This is exactly it. I know, yes, there's been loads of controversy as of late. We're not talking about that today. We're not talking about that, so don't. And no, but that's the thing, I don't want this to be drama. That's what I'm saying to you guys. I don't want this to be drama. I'm doing this so we can civilly discuss the game. I've got no problem with Brady. Brady's got no problem with us, you know. But I have no interest in this becoming a shit-slinging competition, firing shots at other games, saying things that aren't great, you know what I mean? Like, I will do this so we can discuss it in a civilized way. No drama? Alright, I got you. Just so we're on the same page here. Oh, Denim banned someone. I probably missed a bunch of stuff in chat. Right, let me join. How do I do this? So, I will. It's probably just easier for me to make a call, right? Let me just start a call.
You're not a true gamer.
I'll call Ryan directly and I'll add Tom. How do I do this? Okay, I've called Ryan.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, mate.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Right. Oh yeah, chat. I expect you guys to behave. 100%.
I mean, I still have my mouse in my hand. If people don't behave, I'll just ban. No timeouts, bans all round.
No, timeouts, please. Don't ban.
Behave yourselves.
Banning is a last resort for me here. Brady, what is your Discord?
This is why you and I are the true duality of man. You are timeout. I'm ban. Outright.
Oh,
no mercy. Am I not merciful?
They're Mustard the Merciful, dude. I'm telling you.
Ketchup the unforgivable.
The Punisher.
Oh, what's up, Maggie? I'm actually, if you guys can make Final Combat, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Brady, what is your Discord, my dude? I don't think I have you added.
Ryan the Ravenous. Dude, I got at Combo Breaker, you know, that year at Combo Breaker where they had the MKX and MK9, I got 3-0'd by this Ravenous Molina who absolutely dismantled me. And it dawned on me the second I played the first game that I hadn't fought a Ravenous with Sector ever after like 3 years. And I'm like, bro, how was I not ready for this matchup? He's like hopping all over me. I'm like, I don't know the frame data of this hop. I'm just getting grabbed. I'm getting hit by the Triple H all the time. I'm like, this is savage. It was so bad. It's probably one of the hardest.
What's the Triple H?
You know when you know with Ravenous, she like hops over you and like grabs your arms and like slams. It's like the pedigree.
I don't know if that's the Triple H.
It's like the reverse pedigree, isn't it?
How do I fucking add friends in Discord? How have I forgotten how to do this? Ah.
Yeah, guys, generally... Hang on. Ketchup preemptively threatening to... You know me, Skiachi, that's me. That's how I roll. That's why Jake streams more than I do. That's why Jake streams more than I do.
Guys, stop talking about the bullshit. I'm warning you. I don't agree with it either, but that's not what we're talking about today.
My finger's on the timeout button.
Don't make me tap the sign. Alright, Brady, I've sent you a friend request.
Can I punish down ones with Kotal's parry? If not, why do it? Kotal's parry has historically mostly been used to absorb projectiles and then get a damage boost for like your next advance, right?
It's not really meant to be used as like a button parry. It's mainly to absorb something that they threw at you to just go like, now I'm going to kill you.
It was used rarely in MKX as a way to, you get the meter burn it to beat certain wake-ups on like a really, really hard read. Like Madsen would do that kind of stuff, but even Madsen, he would use the parry mostly to absorb your projectiles, put a damage totem up, and then throw a pizza at you and do like 50% life. So like the parry is not necessarily a parry that you are familiar with. The parry is used to instantly cancel out of it to create like these new like staggers almost to like, they're not real because they're all minus, but the whole point is you can end a string early that someone's not ready for and then squeeze out a down 3 to steal a turn, right? Or just absorbing projectiles to get damage boost.
Want to do a first 10 on PC? I'm not doing sets today, bro. I'm just doing casual games.
I don't play first. I can't remember the last time I even played a first.
But
10.
I imagine that we're going to be on this topic for a while, so we'll see how much time we have left.
I'm working on a script, so I thought while I'm sitting here working away, if we're chatting about it, then
I've added Brady now.
Have a chat.
All we can say is, if you don't play this game, you're not a true gamer.
I do remember that, Fusion. Yes, that was a sick.
Hey, I think we're good.
I was the last one.
I just want to say,
last one to
thanks
join
for having me on,
overall.
guys.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
Yeah, and I just want to say, there's a lot of talk about this, and I want to say you two are two of the very few people who have always done criticism, even if it's not always complimentary in a positive manner. You've always talk about the good and the bad, and I think that's not always been the case. But you two are definitely two who are pretty much never shied away from, issues in the game in general.
I mean, I appreciate that because it's kind of tough to kind of give that image, I suppose, in a world where, especially online, if you don't agree with the point they're making, there has to be some kind of like underlying reason, right? So it's what we try to keep the case, because I mean I feel like there's kind of no real not doing that, right? Like it's especially in a case like this where obviously sensitive subject is Evo not having MK, and there are so many factors that we can't possibly know. We are, as a community, left just assuming and guessing, and some people will take their guesses more seriously than others. Obviously, some people that are maybe less knowledgeable will just take anything they see as like absolute fact, or I don't know. It's a really weird situation.
Okay, let me just say a couple things. For one, I have had. It is no coincidence that a few years ago I started the whole. Can you imagine if they booted us for MK11 talk? I just started that talk a few days ago. And I wasn't sure. I don't want to say I have any inside information, but I do have some people who know people, and they threw the idea that, hey, it's possible there might be Marvel 2. And I thought, there's no way Marvel 2 is going to be there instead of Mortal Kombat 11, right? But I thought, just for fun, in my examples, I'll use Marvel 2, right? And if it's wrong, I didn't say anything, but if it's right, I can come back to the point. And the fact is, I was using the point that while Marvel 2 was a broken game, you couldn't use 90% of the roster. The stuff that people were doing, there are infinites in the game, Iron Man one-touch kills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The stuff that has become what people actually have grown to love about Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? Like MVC 2 is one of those old games that kind of embodies hype but extremely broke at the same time. Like it's almost like one of the purest examples of it, which is actually why like I really enjoy watching Marvel 2. I've never played it in my life, but I like watching it. But I think there's this big thing on the subject of Marvel 2 that I actually can't say I'm surprised to see it in the lineup, because Yipes and Arturo and everyone else have been doing really good things with Battle of the Strongest. There has been quite a revival of the game from like a Twitch viewership side of people actually re-seeing the game. The players are all coming back out of the woodwork, and it is resulting in some really fun streams. And MVC2 is such an OG game.
So here is my...
makes sense they've done that to me.
Here is my point on this, though. So I feel like fundamentally we do have to remember that Evo is considered the world finals for grassroots fighting game tournaments, right? Like go back the however many years Evo's been going. Like Ketchup and I first started going in 2012. Brady long before that, and who knows how long? I couldn't even tell you the year it started, because it was like so.
Evo started. The history of Evo is Evo started. It's so funny. So Evo started at a tournament known as Battle by the Bay.
Yes, I've heard of this.
It was called B3 there wasn't a B1 or B2. It was called B3 because there's 3 Bs. So Battle by the Bay, B3. And then it was B4 and B5. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 pretty much fathered the modern tournament scene we have. Marvel 2 brought in so many people that tournaments were able to expand to other Capcom games that pretty much weren't as popular in the States, like Third Strike, et cetera, Super Turbo. And then we were able to expand by bringing in some top Japanese players over. And all of a sudden we had a tournament that had Marvel, like Justin Wong was a big part of that, et cetera. And it really fathered what we have now. And it became big enough that they could say, okay, now we're going to expand to before Evo, pretty much besides the East Coast tournaments that Big E would host, tournaments were very much like old style wrestling. They were regional. Like in other words, like not regional, but I mean like Capcom would have Capcom only tournaments. Namco would have tournaments with only Tekken and Soul Calibur. There weren't really these big tournaments outside of the Big E events where you would have multiple different fighting games from different developers like Capcom, Namco, Mortal Kombat, etc. Evo really made that more of a mainstream thing, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 pretty much powered that. People got into Marvel 2 because they loved it. Just I didn't mean to cut you off. The bottom line is like, they're like, even you guys, right? You guys traveled. I first met you guys in 2012. You guys came to America. You guys didn't say, I'm going to come because I want to get paid or because I want to do. You came because you
didn't get paid in MK9.
You came because you loved the game. You, Foxy, Mustard. Who else came? Useless Blue came because you loved the game. You got into the game because you loved it, right? You enjoyed Mortal Kombat. If somebody were to say to you, "Hey, man, don't you know Kenchi's in that game?" Of course you do, but you loved it. There's just something to be said about things that you love to do, things that you find enjoyment in, right? And I think the enjoyment factor gets lost with Pro Series stuff. If somebody says, hey, I don't enjoy this game, it becomes, hey, man, suck it up because you could win some money. But who really plays for money, right? I mean, how many people really believe that they're going to show up and win a bunch of money at a tournament, right? So I think somehow that got lost in our scene.
I feel like it was the because I was actually talking about this topic the other day as well, is I feel like there are, I don't want to say there's less passionate members of the NetherRealm community, because obviously there are still huge fans of the game. You look at like Latin America, you look at the crowd in Vienna, and there are these arenas that will just explode with people because they love the game, they love the community, and you do still see that in America every now and then. Obviously not quite as often as I think we would have back in the day, but I feel like that's just, again, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing. I don't know if I believe that it had a hand in MK11's absence in EVO, because I definitely do think that it was a bit more grassroots back in the day, but that kind of brings back to the original point, though, is EVO is a grassroots tournament, right? It is a grassroots tournament, and part of grassroots events are, let's throw a curveball in, right? You know, that's where Mystery Game tournaments started. That's where, you know, these other events that aren't really kind of mainstream events at the time will find their way into the tournament. And I kind of feel like this is EVO doing that and taking a jab at that again, where, again, you said it, right? Marvel 2 was pretty much the way that tournament started, right? It was a Capcom thing. It was Marvel vs. Capcom, yes. And then they went into Street Fighter. It was a Capcom thing for a while, but Marvel 2 and Marvel as a franchise was always right at the core of that game, which is why I'm honestly not... I feel like I feel weird about it, but I'm actually not at all surprised to see Marvel 2 be in the lineup, because...
I mean, look at last year. It was Unist was that curveball.
Yeah, like last year it was, but that's again, that is a part of grassroots tournaments, right? Is organizers saying, this is probably going to piss some people off, but it's something we want to do in our tournament, so here the game is, or here this thing is, and it's something that, again, right, curveball, it throws you off, it's like, oh, okay, didn't expect that. And this year's version of that is pretty much Marvel. Because Battle of the Strongest, you saw great Twitch viewership, you saw great crowdfunding, because even Mr. Wizard on the stream immediately said, we're going to start the donation, or not donation, sorry, we're going to start the prize. We're going to give it $10,000 of a pot, and we're maybe going to add some things, which is kind of exactly what they did at Battle for the Strongest.
Absolutely.
What I find is the strangest thing about it, and again, I'm not saying this to hate on Marvel, because I will watch it at EVO, because I like watching Marvel too.
And I guarantee that it's going to explode EVO. It's actually going to have immense, like, figures all round. I guarantee.
Yeah, because it's the father of all of this. Yeah. You know, so many people have such fond memories, and people that didn't see it when it happened have heard about it, and their curiosity is going to have them watch as well. So it's going to explode, absolutely.
Now, what I find strange, though, is I feel like if this were to happen at one of the kind of real big majors, but not like I'm trying to think of an example. Like, if it were to happen at something like ECT or SCR or one of these, like, they are definitely majors, like definitely big majors, but they're not like the top kind of EVO level, right? If it was to happen at something like that, I feel like it'd be a bit more understandable. I do find it strange how EVO have done it, considering the scale of EVO, the size overall, the kind of the worldwide. But the thing is but that's on the assumption that it has effectively replaced a game. You know, for all we know, if Marvel wasn't there, it would just be an 8-game lineup. Like, it might just be 8, not the 9 that it is now.
Quite possibly true. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You make a great point with that.
But it's on the assumption that it was meant to be a 9-game lineup the whole time. The fact that something like an Invitational would take the place of other games that aren't there, right? MK, obviously, Guilty Gear, BB Tag, KI, Melee isn't there again, you know. I find that's the thing. For me, that's the biggest question mark, you know, is that these existing games at something like EVO, where you know people are going to come, you know the numbers are going to be there. I can't wrap my head around that. Well,
let me give you a couple of examples, and I've been around for a long time. This is not the first time this has happened in the game. So let me just say a couple of things. I find it poetic justice that the community who has lived by the saying, nobody cares about old games, and what's the saying we use? Nobody cares about the 1980 Olympics, gets booted for a game that came out in a previous century. There's a bit of irony to that. And here's a great example. In Marvel 2 will be well received, and the Capcom community will embrace Marvel 2 being there. We agree on this, right?
Yeah.
They'll embrace it. Ninja Killer back in Injustice 2 said, hey guys, I love MKX. I know I wasn't a tournament player, but I'm just streaming for fun. I don't care about props. I don't want to say what I would have done. I'm just streaming for fun. And he got called a necro. He's too scrubby to play Injustice 2. Why are you playing an old game? Somebody plays an old Mortal Kombat game and we butcher them for it. You're not living in the times. You're playing for fun is conceived as Foxy Grandpa is a big, why play for fun when you can play for money? Well, you ain't playing for any money now this year at EVO, are you? And that kind of stuff comes back
no,
to
he's playing for money at Final Combat, though. He's playing
exactly.
for the
But
finals.
the point is people tend to shove EVO numbers at us. In other words, when somebody says, hey, I love Mortal Kombat 11, right? I love Mortal Kombat. But there are a few things that I don't enjoy about the game. And I feel like some people don't enjoy these things too. We hear, no, that's not true. Look at our EVO numbers last year. People love to shove the EVO numbers at you. And then it's not an EVO this year. And then it's like, well, I mean, what is it really? It's a big deal to me. It's a big deal. There was a DOA had a very similar situation here. So DOA had their pro league and they released a game like DOA 4 and a lot of people didn't like it. Nobody cared, right? It was at EVO. It had its own pro league, etc. At CGS, they were giving away a boatload of money. Actually, more money than Warner Brothers is giving away. I mean, they were just giving money handed. You were getting $30,000 guaranteed just for you could lose every game and you got 30 grand guaranteed, right?
Wasn't that during the midst of the famous esports bubble that burst along the lines of Quake 4 and everything else? There was loads of money being given out at the time, and then that was a very infamous esports bubble where there was way too much money and no ecosystem, and then pop, it bursts, and esports has to be essentially
what happened
rebuilt
was
from that point.
The grassroots people got alienated because even when they lost EVO, it was, well, we have this, we play for money, hey, we have that. Problem is, once the money wasn't there anymore, if somebody wakes up tomorrow at Warner Brothers, if somebody at the head of the head wakes up tomorrow and says, money or no money, our sales don't change. We're not going to put this money out anymore. We have alienated the grassroots scenes by pretty much laughing in their face whenever they, talk about something they don't like about Mortal Kombat. It's always, people. One thing I love about what you guys do is, you guys give the best kind of criticism. It's one thing to say, I don't like a game because it's bad. That does nothing for anybody. One, the community feels like, oh, I bought a bad game. You don't help people get into it. Two, from a developer standpoint, a developer is like, what's bad? What can I do with it's a bad game? What can I do with that information to improve my product? So you're pretty much giving a bad review and you're giving no information that helps anyone. But saying the things you like about the game and the things that you don't enjoy about the game, things they could do better, is great because it encourages people to get into the game for the good reasons and gives developers some feedback on what could be different the next time around. The problem is, in the Mortal Kombat world, people are very quick to say, you don't know about the game. You don't know the game at high level. You're just bad at the game. You can't tell people what they do or do not enjoy. And people are always having to hear that. People love the game. Just look at EVO last year. We had 1,500 people. Look at EVO last year. We had 1,500 people. People love to kind of throw that out there. And I feel like people have been saying for a long time, there are things I don't enjoy about the game. There are things I don't enjoy about the game. And I don't think that ever got taken seriously.
I will put forward the discussion there, though, that absolutely in my experience, hashtag Mr. Ketchup Shillman, whatever. The discussion that there are a couple of things that I've obviously listened to what you've been saying that I definitely disagree with. But the first of all, and I'm sure this actually applies to Jake as well, in my experience, the discussion throughout all of 2019 was not, there are things I dislike about the game, and I want to put my point across. The discussion was, I fucking hate this game, and if you like it, you're a fucking sellout. You know what the fuck you talk like? It's actually a very confrontational.
It goes both ways,
absolutely, which is very hard to. But that's just human. That's just people being people. That's gamers being gamers, where people can't have discussions about their points. And if one person starts the conversation with a very dismissive manner, like, I'm always happy to have a chat about the game and have a chat about what I like and don't like. You could ask me right now, what don't I like about Mortal Kombat? And 100%, it was like, you know, I thought jump-ins were ridiculous. Fatal blows needed to have, like, there should have been more developer time to add cinematics to the startup so you can actually see it and react to it accordingly. They need to have less pushback. On a casual level, I hate how hard it is to get gear for characters. Like, I hate how I can't just turn on a different platform of Mortal Kombat and just grind, enable some kind of gear priority system for the character I'm playing, and bam, I've got loads of gear by just playing the game. I haven't got to grind towers, which would be kind of tedious. Like, there's a lot of things that I dislike about the game, but it's how you put that point across that will shape people's opinion of what you think. It's just, I definitely got the impression last year, it hasn't really happened this year, thankfully, but last year it was definitely the impression of, if you put your point across in a very respectful manner, that's not necessarily what people wanted. I think a lot of people wanted you to be as outraged as they were, and if you weren't as angry and confrontational in how you put the point across, then you're just one of the horde of sellouts. But also, so when you'd mentioned when you mentioned the community only playing for money and dictating tournaments worth on that, I kind of do think that blankets the scene under one group. And I got to say, like, you know, Foxy is one of my best friends, even outside of video games. He's pretty much the only player I've ever met in NRS that is like pure black and white. I will go to a tournament if I think financially it's worth me being there. And he's the only player I've ever met that's been like that black and white about it. But looking at Foxy's perspective, we all come from the same age group. We're all pretty much the same age. All three of us are getting older. We're not the young sort of competitors that we were back in Mortal Kombat 9. And there are severe real-life changes that happen alongside what is your hobby of playing these games at a competitive level. If you are the 1% who is good enough to maybe win or place in a tournament or place well enough in the money, that if you are having these life changes, like, you know, Foxy's got his long-term partner in there. As far as I'm aware, they're living together. I don't want to spread false information, but you know, Jake's married now. I'm engaged. I'm getting married next year. Like, there are lots of things going on outside of games where if you just so happen to be part of the small percentage of players that can make really good money, it kind of seems almost understandable to me that the financial side of things would actually in turn become a really big incentive, because one amazing tournament result can do so much for you outside of the game. If you want to start a family or something, if you want to buy a house, like, there are so many moving parts to that for those that do have that direction, it is in some ways understandable, depending on, you know, what their life is like outside of games, you know. But that is only, for me, in my experience, a very small percentage of people.
But
a lot
that's
of us
that's actually where I wanted to pick it up. I feel like fundamentally this is very much painting the entire community with the same brush. And I definitely have seen those exact points that you made, Brady. I have seen those exact words come out of specific people. But it's definitely not an overall community thing, right? Like, I feel like if we're going to go back to the MKX days where obviously Ninja Killer came out as this, like, god Liu Kang online, there definitely were people that were like, well, who cares, you know, because Injustice 2 is being played right now. But it absolutely wasn't the entire community, right? I feel like the NetherRealm, I feel like one of the biggest mistakes we could make as a community is forever having it as the NetherRealm community. I feel like there are MK players and NetherRealm players. So you got the NetherRealm players play both, and the MK players will only play the MK that is the most active at the time, right? But I
remember that in Injustice 1. Lots of the Russians played MK9 still.
But I know for sure that, again, even at this same point of, you know, competitive players, when they are at that point, they have to take money into account. Is it worth me going? How much can I win? Am I going to break even? Am I just going to throw all this money down the toilet? But I don't know if I can honestly agree that the NetherRealm community has alienated grassroots. I just don't know if I think that is a deciding factor here. I can't look at how successful last year was for the Mortal Kombat community. Yes, there's the negativity on Twitter. Yes, you've got people on one side saying that if you hate the game, you just suck at it and you need to get better. And then you've got people on the other side that hate the game, that say that if you like the game, you're a shill and you're a piece of shit and all this, right? All that's happening on Twitter because Twitter is very noisy and people like the sound of their own voice. But the results in the numbers of how many people were watching tournaments, the entry numbers, when you're at the events, what the vibe is like, the entire community there, all watching all the time. It's the same thing every year, right? The whole NetherRealm community is sitting there watching the top 8s with everyone else. And the top 8s for MK is being watched by all the other games' top 8s. You know what I mean? Like, that hasn't changed. I don't know if I can agree that the grassroots has been alienated, and I just don't know if that's a deciding factor as to why the game isn't there.
It's the totality of everything, is what I mean to say. The fighting game world has been literally slapped in the face quite a bit. Alien, for example. 9 months. And then, our bad guys. It might have been unfair. Let's go ahead.
I will definitely always be... I'm definitely with you in that sense that I will always be. My biggest disappointment for MKX was that Alien's Reign of Terror existed for the 2 biggest tournaments the game had, which was Pro League Season 3 finals and then EVO 2016 finals as well, where if Alien wasn't there, we very well might have had actually Tekken Master winning EVO and Foxy winning Pro League, which would have been insane. But Alien was the reason, right?
Very hard on a lot of the commentators that were there.
One of the reasons.
Because obviously, as commentators, you're not going to say this is absolutely ridiculous. So you're going to call the match as whatever. But it's hard because the people are watching like what's going on, and you're not going to really tell them what's really going on. I want to give something. I want to go back to something. Mortal Kombat 9 was that Combo Breaker 2. So going back to this. So the Capcom world is embracing Marvel 2 is going to be at EVO this year, and they're embracing it, and it's going to be quite a spectacle. 2 years ago, Combo Breaker held Mortal Kombat 9. On top 8 day, Mortal Kombat 9 had more viewers than MKX and Injustice 2 combined. There was a podcast with Slips and King Hippo, and King Hippo was point as, I don't want MK9 to do this because it could hurt Injustice 2. Mainly saying, people actually like this game better, and it could hurt our current game that we play for money. The MK scene is not likely to embrace their past the way Capcom games do. They seem to have a huge problem embracing their past. Like, this is going to go over really well for Capcom games, and for the MK games, it's always like, why are you watching this old crap? You know, and we've always kind of had that, you know, logic. And there's also, to your point, also there's also on this, you know, discussion side, there's 2 points to the, you know, some people say I don't enjoy the game and they say you suck at the game, that's why. And other people say I do enjoy the game and they say, well, you're an idiot and you're a sellout, that's why. There's definitely those 2 sides of things where there's really no medium, I guess. But
it's quite an extreme conversation, right? Either way, one extreme or the other.
Yeah, and some people are dug in. Like, there's no convincing one side or the other. You know what I mean? They're dug in no matter what they change. If you like it, you're a sellout. And no matter what they change, if you don't enjoy it, you'll always point to something else you don't enjoy and why it's bad, et cetera, right? That's pretty much the way people are. But this goes back farther than that. You know, I think EVO for Mortal Kombat X, the second EVO the game was on, got more eyes on it than I think it's ever had. You know, it was in a huge arena. I can't ever remember more eyes on Mortal Kombat than in Mortal Kombat X.
It still had the 8 AM time slot as well, so it did get that, like, that I guess you could say, like, the time slot that people were like, oh, that's the one that everyone's gonna miss because everyone's in bed or they're hungover or whatever.
But on the West, but on the East Coast, it's noon almost, you know. In other areas of
Europe,
the world,
it's watchable. It's like, hang on, I don't have to stay up until 4 in the morning to watch this.
Pretty much everywhere in the world, but the West Coast, it was watchable. You know, but MKX had a lot of eyes on it, even from launch. You guys were there at Fatal 8. Look at how big it was, right? MKX had a lot of eyes on it, and it was awesome because we had this awesome final between Sonic Fox and Tekken Master. Right, went to it was a reset, the last game of the last set. And I think we can all agree it was one of the more entertaining grand finals we've ever seen, right? It was a really good competition between 2 amazing players.
It was almost a Arslan Ash situation, but for Mortal Kombat, because he single-handedly put the Middle East on the map with that one performance.
And then in the last game, Alien came out, and Sonic Fox broomed him.
And the entire audience kind of collectively,
and all the air came out of the building, right? Right. And everybody said this wasn't a competitive set. He could have 3-0'd him if he wanted to with this. This is garbage. You sold us a bunch of... And then Sonic Fox gets up and does the Aaron Black thing. I told you I could do it. And everyone's like, Dude, shut up, man. Yeah, you showed us you could do it with Aaron Black. Good job, buddy.
To be fair, and to this point, no one would have, like, the Tekken master of today would have picked Alien as well, though. That is a fundamental point about
We're not
that set.
disputing that. But again, and here's where I'm going with that. One, that was the end. They released a major patch a few months, like a month later, right? No armored launchers, yada yada. And people were like, I'm done. You've lost us for good. We're not coming back, right? They did a major patch, which should have breathed a ton of life into the game. Literally gave everybody what they wanted. And people said, guess what? We don't care. You're done. We're done with this. We're done. Evo left a bad taste in people's mouths. And I'm glad you brought up Tekken Master of today would have gone to Alien. Because our very own friend Foxy Grandpa has always lived by the logic. Anybody can pick up Alien or Mileena and do whatever. You cannot tell the American people, look, you should enjoy what you're watching, because everybody could be playing Alien and Mileena. The answer to the problem isn't, guess what? Your favorite players, they should all be playing Alien and Mileena. The American public doesn't want a tournament filled with 2 characters. You know, that's not a solution. The solution is saying, yes, this is a problem. The top players in Mortal Kombat games seem to have a really hard time embracing the fact that this is really messed up for whatever the reason is. Maybe they don't want to ruin an opportunity, or maybe they don't want to seem like they're whining or complaining. But the bottom line is, after that Evo, there was no turning back. And now here comes Mortal Kombat 11. And I don't think people realize just what a short leash it was on. People don't want to play MK11 being advertised as the return to footsies. Yeah, you know, I watched the Combat Cast and they said, we heard what you want. Neutral is back. And then we have to walk forward and block every half a second, blocking low against Geras while he goes from one end of the screen to the other. And we're told Geras is fine, Geras is fair, Cetrion's fine, Cetrion's fair, you're bad, you're stupid, level up, and get better neutral.
I don't think I ever saw a single person say Geras was fair, like in sincere terms. I don't think that's ever something I heard.
Foxy,
but you can't
Geras Ferris to completely take the piss.
And I agree, with that. But the point is, there are some people out there who really don't level up. You know, level up. That's the. You can't go from that and give us this, and then take 6 months to a year to fix it. Does it really take that long to understand?
I do have to interject. I feel like we've gone off on a tangent here, and I'm not seeing how this is relevant to the Evo discussion.
That's true.
I feel like we've gone down into a rabbit hole. I know you're very much not a huge fan of the directions that the MK games have gone in recent years, and I feel like we're kind of going down that rabbit hole as opposed to the original discussion.
The frustration. I feel like it not being at Evo is not. People want to point to one reason. I agree with you guys that it's not at Evo for any one particular reason. It's multiple reasons. It's not because, oh, no one likes the game. Well, that can't be the only reason why. There are multiple reasons to think.
If people didn't like it, it wouldn't have been the biggest Mortal Kombat tournament of like history
absolutely
last year, right?
But I want your thoughts on the fact that could this be an issue with why maybe it's not at Evo? I think one of the things that Mortal Kombat has struggled with is really building its kind of community.
I feel like retention has always been an issue in the NetherRealm community, right?
So I actually have quite a lot to say about this, and I absolutely plan on putting my point across very respectfully. By no means do I want to call out Evo. At the end of the day, the fact that the games have been at Evo has been good for the game. It's been good for the overall growth. Because look, at the end of the day, Evo is Evo. It is the Super Bowl of the FGC, right? So everyone, no matter what happens behind the scenes, when that tournament is live and Evo is going, and a player wins Evo, they are still recognized as the Evo champion. You know, that's what made Sonic Fox so famous. It wasn't Pro League that made Sonic Fox famous and MKX, it was the Evos that they won. That is what made them famous, right? So, however, I strongly believe, we will never know the reasons it wasn't used, it wasn't selected, because ultimately it is a selection process. The game was simply not picked, and that selection process would have been done by likely, you know, a small amount of people. I don't imagine this was like a huge collective, massive group effort of discussion, because it often isn't with game titles. But in this instance, we have to look at why the NetherRealm community has not always held Evo in the highest esteem as a tournament, mostly because the community has often felt like it's been disrespected and not treated with the respect that other games would get. And I'm going to give some of the examples, right? And this dates back to minimum 2014. I can't remember it so good, so if you can remember, Brady, or anyone in chat remembers, then by all means correct me. But in 2014 was kind of the start of the problems, where there was some kind of issue where the Injustice setups, when tournament day comes around, none of them are patched, and they have to install the patches, right? So it results in almost everything except for the top 8 completely off stream, almost the entire tournament.
That was 2013 also. Some didn't have the Scorpion patch, so some people were playing with unpatched Scorpion on some setups.
Yeah,
and
so,
CEO that happened as well.
And just for chat as well, Scorpion was nerfed into almost a completely different character, like one of the most like heaviest single nerfs in. Imagine if you're playing against pre-patch Geras to the Geras Forward 2 now, right? It's a bit like that, but at Evo, right? At the what is supposed to be the biggest tournament. This is the situation players found themselves in.
And then 2014, the disaster went a lot further, where pretty much the whole game and loads more DLC existed after that point. So like, and there were a lot of changes from 2013 to 14. There was a significant difference in the game. So also not patched. I didn't go, obviously. I didn't go to back to America since 2015 onwards. But in 2014, Test Your Might was a lot more active than it is now for competitive. And Test Your Might was kind of running rampant, really, that someone, I think it was Pig or someone, was like, by the way, guys, no stream until like top 8 or top 16, whatever it was. There ain't no patches, so we have to wait for the whole systems to patch. And we're all like back home, like, are you serious? That there's literally, as far as until the very end of the tournament where top 8 happens, there's no patch on Injustice at all. So
yeah,
they have
most
to
of the matches, marquee matches were filmed via someone's cell phone and then they're uploaded because they weren't streamed.
And then so that was kind of the start of, okay, well, that was kind of bad, really. And then 2015, to my knowledge, 2015, year 1 of MKX actually wasn't that bad. I can't recall anything super terrible about organization. It seemed kind of all right to me. I don't know if anyone else had any experiences, but there was no kind of like glaring issues like an entire tournament not having a patch running, you know. But then 2016 was kind of the return of that, and that actually sparked the conversation of how important do we value Evo after the treatment that we got here. And what happened at 2016 was loads of organizational issues, first of all, absolute tons of them. The tournament ran very late. I'm sure we ended at like, God, how late did we finish, Jake, in 2016?
I remember commenting on the fact that it was like 11:30 at night.
It was really late, and then we had 8 a.m. top 8 the next day, which, by the way, the entire tournament was not at Mandalay Bay in 2016. We were in a different venue on the complete opposite end of the strip for the pre-top 8 games, and then everyone had to move and migrate to Mandalay Bay the next day.
It was a convention center on the first couple of days, and then Mandalay Bay Arena, which is what we know now, like the final day.
So if you made top 8, you were playing long into the night. And then you had your top 8 at 8 in the morning the next day at a completely different venue that you had to find, you know, and be there early to be ready. And then at the same time, there are all other things like the spectator area that we didn't even have chairs. Everyone had to stand up all day long, permanently. If you had to crowd, there was no screen, no monitor. You had to, if you were watching the streamed games, which are all important ones, everyone had to stand up and crowd around this tiny little player monitor. And if you were playing on stream, for the small amount of stream time on the main stage that we did get, the stage that we had was all the way on the other side of the hall. So you're playing at your matches, and then you find out, you're playing on the stage stream. So rather than just quickly going to the stage, which is right near you, like they do now, you had to walk across the other half of the room. So basically, organization was really bad, and we didn't have the proper resources to make the tournament even remotely a comfortable experience. So lots of organizational problems. Everyone was uncomfortable, in pain, standing around all day. It's not good, right?
Then there was the second year of MKX where they put us on the concrete.
Yeah, that was it. No chairs. Everyone had to sit on the concrete floor. Now, the worst of it for me actually came 2 years after. So this is kind of what I'm talking. It continues. The first year of Injustice 2, I will never forget this. Never forget this. And again, I am simply saying what happened. I have no intention here to blow anyone up. I do not want to give the impression that I am simply shitting on the tournament, for lack of a better term. I am simply stating exactly what happened. That Injustice 2's top 8 started before they had 8 players ready to play in it. Jake and I finish our commentary block right before the top 8, and right as our commentary block is over, and we know we haven't got the whole top 8 ready, it's, okay, you're on in-house top 8, go. And we're like, where? The main stage. We're starting in like 10 minutes. Oh, what? So we have to sprint over to the other side of the room, and only 4 players are ready. The 4 players in winners bracket. Top 8 is just about to begin, by the way. Only 4 players are on the stage.
Qualified. Only 4 have
actually. Yeah, exactly. And then Jake and I aside, it was quite. We weren't really sure what we were doing, so we'd never done in-house top 8 before. We kind of just got given a couple of mics and tried not to get in the way, which was an entirely different story. Like, we made it work, it's no problem. But while the top 8 is live and we're trying to hype up the crowd and the top 8 is starting, you can one by one see players running from the one half of the entire huge hall, which is essentially like an airplane hangar, by the way, guys. In terms of size, it's a huge area. You one by one see the players from losers like running up to the stage, looking around because they don't know where they're going or what they're looking at. They're just following the crowd, and then they're trying to climb the stage. This is all happening while the top 8 is live. So it was insane to me. I've never seen a top 8 for a game begin before 8 players are ready, and it was a huge discomfort for everyone. I can't imagine how the players felt, especially on the losers side, because you have no time to prepare. You couldn't lick your wounds at all. Like, it was, we're done. You have to play now. Like, you haven't got any time. Normally, if you make top 8 in Evo, you have at least a few hours to collect and recover, or you have it the next day, so you can rest and recover. The Injustice 2 players did not have that luxury, and then that was the worst of it. And then the final example for me was the year afterwards, Injustice 2, due to some kind of error. I don't know whose error it was. The entire top 16 to top 8, for the most part, for Injustice 2, which featured some of the best Injustice 2 matches we have ever seen, with crazy character variety, people that had grinded for 2 years solid with these weird character picks that no one was ready for. People like Hero Killer and Cyborg getting super far in the bracket.
Buffalo and
Dizzy.
Michelangelo, like, yeah, Dizzy.
Yep. So the top 16 to top 8, all of that was played off stream, and the reason for that was so they could stream 2 hours of Tekken 7 Stage 1 pools.
Which was also scheduled for about 4 other blocks, I believe.
Indeed. And we finished the top 16 2 hours on the dot. If we had that 2-hour block, which I believe was meant to be there, it got put on there, and there was some weird communication error led to it, because someone wanted it to be top 16 and someone didn't get the memo or something. I have no idea. But it resulted in the whole top 16 being missed on stream, so no one at home can watch it. We had to update people live on Twitter. And it just felt like every single year there was something, but something major that really, really, really left a bit of a bad taste in everyone's mouth, where you just get this impression of, if the powers that be cared about us more and cared about our game more, then perhaps maybe these things wouldn't have happened.
And then to be fair as well, and last year MK11, there were no such issues. Like, last year there was no problem. So, but that's still not a great ratio, right? Like, this is why the NetherRealm community generally doesn't have like overwhelmingly positive natural responses to Evo, because to players that have been there year after year, the odds really aren't in our favor for it to be a great experience.
But has anyone ever asked themselves, why Mortal Kombat? Why NetherRealm game? Is it just because they picked a name out of the hat one day and said, anything made by NetherRealm? Oh, we're going to show these guys. Why? Does anybody just think that they randomly, at random, hate Mortal Kombat, hate NetherRealm.
Would any reason justify that lack of care and respect?
Let me give you some examples.
For paying attendees and paying customers?
Yes, because they treated MK9 like gold. They gave us 3 Evos. They bent over backwards for MK9. They embraced it. That world, that community loved MK9. And that's the truth. So what happened between then and then the stuff in Injustice 2, Injustice 1, MKX, and now where we are now? What happened between then and now? Well, I have a couple of suggestions. For one, all of these games at EVO got there without pot bonuses. Tekken pulled themselves up from a 400-man EVO tournament in Tekken 7 to where they are now without needing the assist of corporate America. Marvel certainly did that, which is why it's there. A lot of games did that. Our community, the NetherRealm community, people don't realize this. You know, people that play Tekken we'll talk about the Mortal Kombat community now. At MLG Dallas, they had to cap us twice. We doubled up their numbers. They had the newest, because people used to laugh at Mortal Kombat. They would say, well, they only play because of the money. They gave Tekken Tag 2 the same money, flew people around from all over the world there. We still doubled them up, and we did it for nothing. Just to show how much we love the game and we support our game, and we will always show up and bury anyone else with our numbers because we support this game. And we were all in unison on how much we support the game. Somewhere along the lines, we went from that to, well, why does this tournament have a low turnout? And instead of blaming ourselves as a community, we need to do a better job to support the game. It's NetherRealm's fault. They didn't put $10,000 in. I'm not traveling for this game without 10 Gs. And we've heard that many, many times. Why did final round for Injustice 2 have 66 people? Well, where's the pot bonus? Hello, NetherRealm. Pot bonus? We blame NetherRealm for no pot bonus. We blame EVO for this, that tournament for this. Everybody but ourselves is to blame.
How many numbers did MK11 get at KIT and Frosty Forstings?
I'm not sure.
They had 150 a pop.
They did. Absolutely.
Very good. That sounds like MK9 numbers.
And there are some tournaments where we do rally. But my whole point to this is the main reason. All these other games have a form of legacy. Tekken has a form of legacy. Street Fighter has, even they do go through changes, but there is a big legacy. Mortal Kombat is literally a new product every time, new ideas every time. Problem is, you get people into Mortal Kombat, the rebirth, Mortal Kombat 9, right? Then comes Mortal Kombat X. Okay, it's huge early on. You got everyone that plays MK9, you got some people that played Injustice, and you got some people who are just new to Mortal Kombat in general. What happens is, after the first few months, people that have played MK9 say, it wasn't MK9, not what we wanted. They leave. People that played Injustice and kind of wanted, a little something similar to that said, it's not like what we wanted, and they leave. But then you have the guys who love Mortal Kombat X. They love MKX. Then MK11 comes out. Return to footsies. You get people that played MK9 and says, okay, let me give it a shot. You get MKX players who said, I like the MKX, let me give it a shot. Maybe they improved on it. After a few months into the game, it's not MKX. Everything that they got me into, they took out. MK9 players, everything that got me into Mortal Kombat, they took out. They rebuild from the ground up. So instead of building with existing players and new players on top, they lose all their old players who got into the game for things they love by throwing all those ideas in the trash, and they bring in new players. But then the MK12 comes out, I loved MK11. It's not MK11. It's not for me. But there are going to be MK12 players. No legacy, I think, has hurt the game because there are some great ideas that NetherRealm has come up with.
I do think that is a really good point. I feel like every Mortal Kombat is very different to the last, which does have its good and its bad, where you are guaranteed this really good year one, where because it's new, and every time it's the same thing, it's, hey, if you want to get into MK, this is a good time because it's going to be new. Everyone's going to be learning it at the same time. It is something that I have personally always enjoyed about Mortal Kombat games because it feels very refreshing. It feels very new. It feels very clean to me.
You feel like you bought a new product, like a true
exactly. And I think that really helps the year one. However, that's again where you do get to this kind of year two kind of slowdown. However, I don't think that's something that can't be remedied. I think it just takes something big that hasn't been done to kind of change it, right? I feel like, again, this point of people saying, if it hasn't got a pop bonus, I'm not going. Again, when you really think about it, That's not the whole community. It is a handful of the people that are in the position that they know they can earn it are like that, right? If you look at any bracket, any tournament of MK players, and you just randomly ask a question to like 90% of them that are there, they know they're not going to win. They might maybe hope for a top 8, right? That's their goal. Like, I just want to make top 8. I just want to make top 16, or I just want to get out of pools, right? Those players are there because they like tournaments, they like the game, they like playing it. They still make up the majority of the brackets. It's just, again, like a handful of people that are in the situation that they have to be like, I can't excuse myself going if I'm not going to win, you know, the cost of the trip back. Because some people, like, I think most of the FGC knows that they're in it and they're going to lose money in it, but they accept it because it's their hobby, right? It's something they like doing. It's a pastime for them. They go to tournaments the way they'd go on vacation. They'll take time off for an event the same way they'll take time off to go to a festival or see a show or something like that, right? It's
entertainment for them, and besides playing, it's also entertainment. Yes,
which is why so many
exactly what we're doing for Combo Breaker. You know,
yeah,
even
exactly.
If we don't get picked to do commentary for whatever happens at Combo Breaker, like we booked our flights and tickets and attendance and stuff because it's like, regardless of whether we're doing anything there, we want to be there because we're taking, you know, Jake's taking his wife, I'm taking my fiance. It's like we just want to go to Combo Breaker for a weekend because it is what we. But
that's also why so many events now are having like convention aspects where there are stalls you can buy for, artist alleys, of course, where you can buy artwork and prints and T-shirts and all this cool ass. Some of the coolest T-shirts I own, I bought at like Evo or Combo Breaker or whatever, right? Because it's there because it's a social event. It's a social thing for people. But that's where I feel like you look at the numbers, MK11 on Steam is doing better than any Mortal Kombat on Steam has done before it. MK daily players, again, on consoles with crossplay, there are more people playing than I've ever seen before. It's never been so easy. But there's no region lock now. Region lock is
the tournament sizes outside of Evo, outside of the first 3, the tournament sizes are identical, or in many cases smaller than they were 10 years ago.
I don't know if I'd agree with them being smaller though, because again, I feel like it's
NEC
a case by
first
case.
year, the first NEC for MK9, for example, had like 150 people. This NEC had 90.
But we're also looking at a specific...
Wasn't NEC a really bad weekend for people though?
It's always been that weekend.
Has it?
It's always been the weekend of after Thanksgiving.
People made a huge deal about it this year, like because like things every game was tiny there. Wasn't Street Fighter super small there too? I'm sure it was.
No,
ECT had 89 people, 90 people too. ECT was a bad weekend?
Hang on, I'm going to look this up because I actually want to get the numbers exactly because I can't remember what they are. Hang on a second.
I can't confirm. Sometimes it could just be people throwing out random numbers.
Smash. Yeah, no, but this is it, right? It's like it's hard to know for sure. Let me have a look. Smash GG ECT 2019. Because I know ECT did well, but I know NEC was a bit lower. But
NEC didn't really feel like a pro comp event for me from a viewer's perspective.
Correct? I believe it was, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was pro series.
It was the final one. It was the final one.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do think
ECT had 197 entrants this year.
197. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, I would say. Yeah, but again, like I said, I mean, like we've had tournaments 200 people even back in 9. Like I would expect things to be a little, I'm not bigger, but bigger on a more consistent basis. Like, and really what I want to say is like, and I'm not trying to compare this game to MK9.
Sure.
That's, but I do think that ultimately the legacy has hurt because there are some things that you can't just, it's hard to come up with good ideas, right? It's hard. The same reason way good ideas can really keep people in, a bad idea will turn somebody off. It's hard when you want to scrap every good idea you have just to say, we'll give you some new good ones. Well, what if those new good ones aren't very good? I mean, it's hard to come up with a good idea. Otherwise, everybody'd be out there selling stuff, right? Mortal Kombat 11 is a collection of a lot of ideas that seem good on paper, but not very good when you apply them. And the community tried to talk about it, and they kind of got shunned by it.
But the thing is, the community that was trying to give those opinions, I just got a year of abuse from people because I didn't share a lot of those opinions. That kind of just goes back to what we very, very, very first discussed. That there are some things I like about MK11 and there's some things I dislike about it. But there are things I love about MKX. Like, of all three of the modern games, my favorite one to play was Mortal Kombat X. However, it probably wasn't my favorite to compete in, because MKX was really fun, but my God, it was stressful to play. I found MKX to be easily the most stressful video game I've ever played. You're a Quan player,
so you have no right. Hey,
yeah, I dished that out. I dished that out to other people, and I was like, man, I'd hate to play against this. But like, it's kind of ironic, because I know we were just talking. I missed my window to mention it. We were talking about MK9 at the Combo Breaker that year, where we all just kind of dusted off our MK9.
Yeah.
The funny thing was,
they held MKX there as well. They had Injustice 2, MK9.
Yeah, all three. They had all three of the main ones.
And that's really where Combo Breaker kind of became like more so than ever the MK kind of thing, because you held both MKs and you held Injustice 2. So it became
Chicago,
kind of like in Chicago. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's kind of like we give those vibes Vianality. That's why the European crowd will never stop singing the praise of Vianality, because it's kind of like a European Combo Breaker that's on the rise. But anyway, my point was, it had insane viewership, and loads of people, like the viewers that are watching it, are like, man, this is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, this MK9 goodness. Us, the players, went away from that tournament after fighting Cyrax, Cabal, and Sonya after years of not
torment,
remembering. Jake literally robbed Star Charger of a full life
I did.
And Star Charger felt a certain way about that, and we all understood why. But basically, like, the ironic thing was, from a viewer's perspective, and MK9 fans and that, everyone's watching it, and the crazy good views. Everyone's like, oh man, now that's what I'm talking about. That's the good old days. The players went away from that tournament thinking, my God, why did I play this? Because, like, genuinely, like, we all got hit by player one advantage versus Johnny Cage. We all got input bug trying to anti-air someone. Like, oh God, like, the bugs really did rear their ugly head very quickly.
But this is and this is what I want to say. I can guarantee that when people are playing Marvel 2 for the first time after like 10 years, Dr. Luma, thank you very much for the resub, mate. I appreciate it. When people were playing, when people will come back, I'm not talking about the players that are invited, because obviously the hardcore Marvel 2 crowd, they embrace it. They love it for all the broken stuff, because that is the game to them. But people that have fond memories that will go back, they're more interested in watching Marvel 2 than playing it, right? And this is what I want to say, where I don't think that's
a great point.
I don't think it's necessarily fair for people, for the community, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the NetherRealm community doing it, and I wish we'd stop seeing it, because and other games that aren't there saying, why is Marvel 2 shouldn't be there. I don't think anyone is saying that Marvel 2 is going to now become a regular staple. This is a celebratory exhibition return to thing. The same way we had MK9.
It is a celebration.
The same way we had MK9. Obviously, MK9 was an open bracket tournament, but no one at Combo Breaker is going to pretend that MK9 is now going to be on the main lineup every year, right? It was there for the year. People watched it. People that haven't seen it in ages watched it. People that had never seen it before watched it out of curiosity. Injustice players that had never seen it watched it because they were curious. People in the venue were like, oh, I remember. How many times did you hear in the crowd, Ryan? Oh, I remember this. I used to play Ermac, or I used to play, whatever character. This was really fun. Oh, do you remember trying to do Challenge Tower? Oh, man. People were like, even though it's not that old, they were nostalgic about it. So it had that kind of appeal to it. If MK9 were to become a regular event at Combo Breaker, I don't think we'd get even half of the entrance or viewership that we got of that 1 year. Because every now and then it's totally okay to bring back a game as a one-off to remind people, hey, this is something, going back to our roots, right? We're kind of going back to the core where the community was built, kind of thing.
But isn't this a good idea, though? That's going to bring a lot of people who have come to Capcom games to maybe pick up a Capcom game. Start going to tournaments.
Your voice is cutting out quite a lot. Sorry, Brady.
I'm sorry. I said, but don't you think it's a good idea what they did with Marvel 2? Like, because it's still going to bring some people who, like you said, maybe haven't played in a while in general. Maybe they play nothing. Maybe they don't go to tournaments anymore. It kind of brings that old feelings back, and they may say, you know what? Let me go and make a tournament again. And of course, they may play something like a Street Fighter or whatever, something a little more current. People are more likely to go and join other tournaments if they know something they enjoy is there as well, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's even to watch, right? I'll go, I want to be there. I want to watch this firsthand. And while I'm there, I might as well enter Street Fighter for the hell of it. You know what I mean? And you become part of the community again, right?
That absolutely happens every time.
But why don't we do that? Why didn't somebody say, okay, not an MK, MK9, MKX, Injustice, whatever you want to, whichever game you want to do. Why don't we do that from time to time? Well, let's not hold a full tournament, but let's celebrate Mortal Kombat. Let's do an MK9 8-man invitational. The 8 people that people want to see play the most. Let's bring those guys in, put them on the sticks, and just do an exhibition, right? We're not taking tournament time away. We're giving the people what they want. Even if you're not there to play, you may be there to watch. And you know what? You may say, while I'm here, sure, I'll play some MK11. I'll enter. And it's okay. Everyone's there to celebrate Mortal Kombat, right? The people, the new school players are there to cheer or whatever, kind of see people that came before them. And the old school people are there to watch, and they'll join MK11, and everyone's having a good time, everyone's having good games, and it destroys this whole me against you, MK9 versus MK11, what's scrubby, what's good. Everybody is in peace. Hey man, I appreciate this, what you have today and what you're doing, and I appreciate what you guys had then and what you guys did then, and everyone's having fun. That's community unity. We don't promote that.
I would very much like to see more unity between the different games, because I do actually agree with that final point 100%, that I kind of sometimes get the impression that the sort of average Twitter stan that hurls abuse at me and Jake,
you say me and Jake, just you, because I don't respond. It's
they
it's
do
just
it
you.
to me because they know I'll reply. This is again the duality of man. But basically, like, I think people forget that Jake and I have been around since MK9. Like, we've seen MK in all of its shapes and sizes. So if I've got an opinion about MK11, whether it's something I like or I don't like, it's not because I'm blinded by new game hype. It's not because, this might just be the first time. There's nothing that would influence that point. It's just I like stuff and I don't like stuff, just like every other Mortal Kombat.
And you do it because you love it. And even like someone like Madsen, when he comes over and spends $1,000 for like MKX at NEC, he does that because he loves it, right? I mean, couldn't he just keep that $1,000 in his pocket, right?
I mean, that's what Madsen, before his retirement, Madsen used to, Madsen would put everything he earned from tournaments into a fund, and then use that fund for future tournaments, because that was just his hobby and his passion.
The passion.
But he was kind of forced into retirement because he couldn't do it anymore.
In MK9 even, it was illegal in Germany. Yeah. He actually went to Poland and smuggled it into Germany.
And he became the best noob Cybot.
And to meet him for the first time was freaking awesome at that MLG, right? He loves the game, and we do have people like that. Like, again, like you guys brought up, like you love the game. That's why you did it, right? And there's a lot of people who are like that, to your point, and I agree with that.
But you know what's really mad, Tom? Because I've been obviously doing loads of research, because I now make this MK meta series on YouTube, right? I'm doing constant research about games that I wasn't involved in competitively, but always learning more about them. And you know what's mad is this whole thing about Mortal Kombat games having very separated communities, and there's no kind of unison. So the immediate example is the old school Mortal Kombat scene doesn't really play or do much with the new Mortal Kombat scene, and vice versa, right? So no one that plays, because loads of our scene and our top players were like kids when MK9 was out, so anything that predates even MK9, like, they wouldn't have even looked at. But even then, some of those players, it's hard to even get them to play MK9, and they certainly, unless it's for like some kind of gimmicky special occasion, won't touch the classics. But old school players, like, I talk to people like Summoning and Shock regularly. Like, Summoning is one of the bigger ones, and he just has no interest in playing any of the new games at all, because the classics are what he enjoys.
Past you MK3, man, that's it.
But then, well, maybe MK4, because Summoning did play MK4 as well. But basically, it didn't even end there, though, because what I had grown to realize by speaking to like THTB and Shock and some of the old 3D heads back in the day was there was even a divide in between a community of players that would play the PlayStation, the NetPlay 3D games, and those that would play continue to play like Ultimate and MK2 and stuff like that. Like, even during the 3D game days, there was actually a separation in the community where some played Deception and Armageddon, because they finally had net play, and it was the rise of clans and forums and setting up clan battles and that. And then there was the community of people that would, like, the tournaments that Shock and that would sort of work on together in that. For the classic Mortal Kombat, even then there was a divide. I kind of feel like MK9 onwards is kind of almost just a continuation of like specific scenes that are all Mortal Kombat, but they are not a unified Mortal Kombat. They had their own set games that they played and stuck to.
So that actually brings me on to, so not to cut you off, Tom, but like that actually brings me on to, because as much as I would love to sit and talk about this for the entire stream, I do have to some things to get on with. So we're gonna have to end this chat fairly soon. But this last point that I really want to ask you guys is, now we know that MK11 is not at Evo. Where can the community go from here to make sure that A, people aren't too disheartened for too long, and B, just really show the community that it isn't all done with now, right? Because when you really think about it, Evo, and I said this before I even started this call, Evo is the only major event this year that had MK11 last year that won't have it this time. It's going to be at Combo Breaker, it's going to be at Biennality, it's going to be at Celtic Throwdown, it's going to be at CEO, it's going to be at ECT, it's going to be... The list goes on, right? So it is absolutely... The World Finals are coming up. We have Spawn on the way. I'm really crossing my fingers for a tease of like a year 2 of a combat pack or something like that, right? Pro Competition year 2. I want to hear all of this. I want to hear them announce all of this stuff. But what is there doesn't necessarily mean that the community will be as enthusiastic about it. What do you guys recommend the community does to moving forward?
Okay, I have some ideas.
Baby.
I have some ideas. One, we stop the blame game immediately. Who's to blame for it not being there? Nobody cares. It's not there, and that's that. We move on immediately. No more finger. What community did what? Who did what? Who doesn't hate the game? Who complained about it? Who didn't? Dead. Fighting amongst each other is not going to help, right? I mean, because we're already on our own as it is, right? So, and then killing each other from the inside is not going to solve any problem. So, one, all that drops. The next thing is, our community has got to be together. We can't be consumed by stupid petty differences anymore. Who wouldn't win in this old game or that old game? We're all in this together. Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat. What happens to one affects the outcome of the next, right? We're all in this together. So if we really want Mortal Kombat to continue in general and, you know, oh, they finally make the best MK game ever made and everybody loves it, but because we didn't want to support it when we had a chance, now, you know, we're paying the price for it. So I think we need to come together as a community.
All we can say is,
we all,
Agreed.
doesn't matter what doesn't matter what MK you played, the 2D ones, the 3D ones, we can't have a situation like Ninja Killer and Injustice 2 saying, hey, I love to play MKX, and then we invent a term called Necro. Well, that's not community unity. We're dividing a line. You're an MKX player? Well, Injustice 2 is out. You're a Necro. And we can't also say, well, you play this current game, you're a sellout, or you're a scrub because they made it easier. We can't do that anymore. We're all in this together. You like MK9, you like Injustice, you like MKX, MK11. We're all the same family.
I think
what we need to do...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We need to be united on this. We talk about Combo Breaker. Well, then let's take a note from Capcom, all right? The West Coast is considered the unofficial home of Street Fighter and Capcom games, and they delivered on it. Combo Breaker is in Chicago, so we'll do the same. Let's do some top 8 exhibitions or something like that. Throw that in there for the fans of the game. Make it a celebration of the community.
I actually think this is probably a good time to mention that I have actually officially submitted a Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 tournament at Combo Breaker, and I'll be finding out soon whether it's been passed or not.
That
awesome.
That actually brings one to what I wanted to add to this. So I agree with that. I feel like it is past time for the Mortal Kombat community overall. No matter what Mortal Kombat you play, whether you prefer MKX, whether you prefer 11, whether you wished MK9 was there, these major events really have, like, you'd be hard pressed to find a big event that you would want to go to that doesn't have some kind of like community application for tournaments. And I feel like that's a really good place to start. You can apply, you can put in your community application for space on whatever game it is you want. If you like playing MKX, start getting MKX tournaments at these events, right? Like, yes, again, this kind of goes, this all feeds back into the grassroots side. To make a tournament, you need to bring consoles, and I don't know how much is provided by the tournament. I don't know if they provide like guaranteed stream time the way Evo or Combo Breaker do. But I know just bring consoles, maybe bring some monitors, let the community know. It couldn't be easier to get the community aware in the build-up to these tournaments. If you want a game to be there, and I'm not talking about MK11, because MK11 is not the one that needs this kind of help overall to kind of really build the community together. If you want MKX to be there, apply for it to be a side event. Bring what's needed. MK9, same thing. Injustice 2,
I made a tweet.
whatever.
Let them know. Let them at Combo Breaker know. Hey, you know what we would really love in the home of Mortal Kombat? Give us some like top 8 exhibition in MKX or MK9, some kind of invitational. Both games.
I'm gonna actually. Where is it? Where is the section? There is a side tournament section at. Let me find it. Let me just Google it. There is actually Combo Breaker this year. There is a side tournaments section which I used to put Ultimate MK3 in. Where is it? 2018. I can't find the link anymore.
But also,
I believe,
sorry, go ahead while you're still looking.
My point is, I believe that side tournament. For if I'm willing to be wrong here, but I'm sure I've seen it. There were a set of side tournaments that were already there. There were actually some side tournaments on the website and on the webpage that are already like being ran. And I'm pretty certain already MKX was one of them. So Combo Breaker is likely to have MKX there as well as MK11. It's, you know, the submission process for side tournaments is still going on. But yeah, if anyone's going to Combo Breaker and you want to play MKX, I'm pretty certain it's there. I'm just trying to find the link. I'm sure I've seen it, but until I've refreshed my memory, I don't want to doubt myself.
I want to give an example as well. Case in point, Combo Breaker this year. Do you guys remember the Florida versus Texas 10v10? Like, and how that like the entire, I was in bed because I was jet lagged and I had to sleep, but like you saw the pictures, you saw the stream, like the entire like half of the room was like huddled around, and that wasn't, there was no money, there was no nothing. That was literally just it was a couple of months of planning from the scenes involved, yes, but it resulted in a great community exhibition. You know, like there is such. That is the side of the community that I would love to see more from events, right? Like, we are absolutely in an age where there's too much negativity. It's too easy to shoot down. Like, someone will be like, hey, I'm enjoying this thing. And then a sea of people are like, you're not allowed to do that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or you can't do that. And it's not always the community. It's the same parts of the community kind of saying it to each other. The majority of the community still loves the game, enjoys entering the tournaments, but it is that kind of, like, Twitter negativity that I think really hurts the scope for that kind of thing, where people they just want to enjoy themselves, right? They want those kind of grassroots events, those one-offs, those exhibitions, those anything, right, to build the excitement that I think the community could really benefit from, especially now we know that people are feeling quite deflated and quite disheartened by the Evo news. There is still a huge community here that are more than capable of putting on a lot of fun and cool shit throughout the year at various events that have already confirmed to have our game there. MK11 is in those rosters, and you can do more with it. You know, get in touch with the organizers, see what can be done, right?
What I want to see is at Combo Breaker on the main stage, I would love to, at the home of NetherRealm Studios, I'd love to see, not a tournament, but kind of like Marvel did, a exhibition with you know, MKX and MK9, invite 8 players for each, hold the MK11 tournament as side tournaments. We could have UMK3, MK2, etc. Make it a celebration of Mortal Kombat. Kind of show the fighting game world that we're not really divided like that anymore. We're all on the same page, and we've got to drop all this nonsense. You know, you wouldn't win an MK9, you wouldn't win an MKX. None of that. We all appreciate each other and each other's games, and we all come together. Instead of Evo being a deflating moment, let it be that moment where we turned things around and came together stronger than ever and came back stronger than any other fighting game scene. That's what it should be. So, and that's what I'm hoping it becomes.
I have just had an idea. You know, in the cartoons where there's the light bulb and it just goes yellow? Talking about this, talking about... Yeah, Eureka moment. Can you imagine at Combo Breaker this year, like, a Mortal Kombat Gauntlet exhibition where you have, because there are players in the scene that have been at a competitive level across MK9, MKX, and MK11. Can you imagine if there was like almost like a 4-man exhibition, like a round robin of them playing all 3 MK games? and you've got like commentators from each game or people from each game, and all 3 games are part of the same exhibition, and it's like who can perform the best across all 3 of the NetherRealm Mortal Kombat games at Combat Break. Can you imagine how sick that would be? If it was all 3 of them, one after the other, and players that were absolutely strong in all 3 over the years. Because there are a handful of people that fit the bill. That would be sick.
You also want your favorite MK9. Like, you don't want someone who doesn't play MK11 at all. Like, say someone has never, but they're a fan favorite, and like, say people Waffles, for example, but he doesn't play MK11. It's like, well, we got to exclude him. You don't want that. You still want the fan.
I think it would help the dynamic. Get someone that played all 3, was like hot shit at MK9, all right at X, and sucked at 11, or vice versa. Someone that's amazing at 11.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
All right at X, but was like crap.
Because you're gonna have
9.
people who were crap at who didn't even play 9 that play MK11. Yeah, you're right. So it balances out. I got you. It balances out.
That'd be great. Guys, give me a 1 in chat if you'd like to see that. The Mortal Kombat.
That's actually a good idea.
Exhibition.
That's actually a really good idea, because then you're gonna have people new and old, kind of outside of the comfort zone. Some people play all, some can't. It's actually gonna be kind of entertaining.
Dude, that'd be sick.
I saw a comment.
That is something people would see. Watch.
I think
Absolutely.
This is one of the problems too. I just saw a comment in chat that says, you guys be talking about this, but never make anything happen, really. Bro, I literally just told you that I've put in to run an Ultimate MK3 tournament at Combo Breaker. The fuck do you want from me? I've literally just told you that I've officially submitted to take action. My plane ticket's already booked, bro. Like, I'm going. I'm gonna be in Chicago, you idiot.
Dude, I organized one of the most successful UK locals. Fuck off.
Bro, we run Hyper. I'm running Meteor Attack on March the 29th from MK3. Third Strike, JoJo.
Yeah.
Bro, we run tournaments.
Oh, dearie me.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
I think that's a great idea. I would actually love to have that done.
That'd be sick. That would be great. I think especially now with Combo
Like all
Breaker.
3 games, 8-man gauntlet, right? You'd say so. Players from, well, yeah. That would be really good. And
you'd have enough players for sure.
Make it it'll be a celebration of Mortal Kombat. We would all come together as a community, and I think that would bring a lot of people there. And I promise you, MK11 tournament numbers will probably be through the roof for that event.
I honestly, like, even though, and this is why I like having discussions like this, because this shit literally just popped into my head while I'm listening to you guys talk about how important it could be to support the games, if people like playing them, if they want to get more out there, and that shit just pops up. Like, I am 1000% gonna look into this and see if it's something that we can do, and what would be required from a logistics standpoint. Because ultimately, an idea is an idea, but getting it off the ground is something else. But it's not impossible. It is absolutely not impossible. I'm gonna see what we can do. But anyway, guys, cheers for the discussion. I think.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate
no worries,
it,
man. I feel like we hit all of the main talking points about this. I know it's a sensitive subject right now with MK not being at Evo, and I know a lot of the community is disappointed, upset, disheartened, angry. Like, I understand it, and just remember that it is not the only tournament of the year. I love Evo. Yes, Evo is a great tournament. It is a spectacle. It is great to see every year, but it is not the only tournament of the year. We have Combo Breaker, confirmed MK. Vianality, confirmed MK. CEO, confirmed MK. Right, Versus Fighting, confirmed MK. All the other events around, ECT will have it, of course. Like, and we, of course, the biggest one, Final Combat. We have the World Finals for Mortal Kombat coming up in a month's time, where we're going to see a lot of cool shit to do with Spawn. We're going to see the best players in the world. Like, it is going to be exciting. And 2020 is not confined by a single tournament. So.
Absolutely, that doesn't. And I just want to, before I get out of here, the Brazil scene. What made it so special? They have embraced all their community. That stemmed from the 2D ones to the 3D ones, now to where we are now. They're one community, which is why they're so passionate and why their tournaments are so special, because it's a celebration of Mortal Kombat and the entire community comes together. We can do that too. We can do that.
At Liga Latina, you had By Speed on commentary, who is arguably one of the absolute strongest Ultimate MK3 and Trilogy players in the world. He's a huge content creator. South America still has Ultimate MK3 tournaments that get over 100 people.
On Sega Genesis?
Yeah,
yeah, sometimes it's Sega, sometimes it's SNES. Sometimes it will be arcade, but because they grew up playing on the Genesis version, because of the bootlegging culture of, you know, games being really expensive back then and no one knowing they're buying counterfeit consoles and games, they all just came with Ultimate MK3. So people grew up playing Ultimate MK3 in South America. Because that's the game that came with the consoles, but they all got really good. And when they do tournaments, sometimes they do tournaments on Genesis. It's like it sounds so weird to us, right? That would even be a thing, but that's their format. They don't care about arcade accuracy. My point is,
Evo doesn't define them. It doesn't define them, and it doesn't define us.
But it's it's the big thing of like we have got large scenes. It's just issues in travel was also another one. Like if we could take a whole bunch of those South American players and get them at other tournaments, then there'd be like this massive like injection of players. Same thing like Foxy says in chat. The same thing with the Russian scene. Like Russia has a really passionate. Again, I keep mentioning it. UMK3. UMK3 has more players in the world than people think. It's just not the traditional Western scene. Hence, no one knows about it. But there's a lot of players there. It's just. We're very separated. But my final thought is, before I've got to go make a cup of tea and get this video
final
done,
thought, like it's been a fucking episode of Jerry Springer.
Oh, dude, that's totally what he says, isn't it?
Yeah.
I forgot that's the thing he said. Anyway, my sort of general thing before I go is fundamentally, if the biggest thing is that it just feels weird not being at Evo, because we've been at Evo for years and years and years and years and years. This is the first time in a long time.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, this is the first time in a long time.
That's weird.
That we've not. And that's exactly it. We put it into perspective, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Which is why everyone feels this way, because we've never not been there. You most always think that Evo's got to have an NRS game. Well, this is the year where we found out, no, it doesn't have to have an NRS game, because the powers that be might just go, nope. And there's nothing we can do about it. You know, it's their tournament, it's their say, and we can speculate until the ends of the earth as to why or how, but we are not the people that made those choices, and therefore we will never know why. All we can do as a collective scene is what can we do now that is the situation, and there's a lot of things we can do. The big thing is just keep supporting the game, keep going to the tournaments that have it. We are not short of fantastic world-class tournaments. I still believe in my bones strongly that Combo Breaker is and always will be the finest NetherRealm tournament that the world has ever seen. And that still has Mortal Kombat, you know.
CEO as well. CEO is. I mean, CEO started the gold standard of, wow, it feels good to play more. And CEO really started that, and Jabali has always been.
No, it's 100%.
Right. Yeah, so
I'm going to a CEO one day.
I'm gonna make a video about this idea, and I'm gonna try to put it and see if it gets some. I love that idea, kind of a gauntlet idea. I think it's an awesome idea.
I'll tell you what, I'll reach out to Rick and I'll see what he says, because obviously, like, you know, we're not the only community looking to do cool stuff there, so I'm gonna have a look and see what would be needed from us as a community, what we would need to provide, and I'll let you guys know what he says. So we'll see what's what. I think this could be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
Big E as well. We'll give him his props. I agree with you. But thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it, man. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
No worries, dude. Right, I'm gonna hop out of the Discord. Cool. Peace out, guys.
All right, you guys have a great day. Later, guys.